When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Shave ice by the beach. A trip to the state fair. And a throwback flick at the local drive-in. They're more than just items to check off the summer bucket list. They're also opportunities to earn 2% daily cash back when you use your Apple Card with Apple Pay. Apply for Apple Card now and use in-minutes with Apple Pay. Subject to credit approval. Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
Welcome back to Series 2 of Mucci and Deno. We've got Andy Much and Robbie Dennison alongside us for the 2026-27 season. Robbie, how have you been over the summer?
Very well, Johnny. Watching a little bit of the World Cup didn't really turn me on that much, to tell you the truth. I think the times of the games and all weren't really to my suiting, really. But I suppose once it comes around to this stage, then you're obviously looking forward to the new season and hopefully looking forward to winning a few games with the Wolves, you know.
Well, we may even do that this season. Mucci, how about you? How was your summer?
Oh, I had a great summer, Johnny. Yeah, so far, you know, the weather's been brilliant, obviously. Been following the Open Championship because it's been obviously down my way. Been away with the wife and family for a family holiday, which was great. As Robbie said, watched a bit of the World Cup. Not too significant, I suppose, until the last 16. Lots of games which, big boys against minnows. So, but all in all, it's been a really good summer and I've been enjoying it.
Good man. I went up your way to the Open and it was absolutely brilliant. Had a top time up there. You can't beat the Open golf in the summer. Right, but let's talk football. We have had so far a summer that's brought in Kieran Trippier and Raul Jimenez to much fanfare. And we've also had a winger called Rafiki Saeed arrive, but he's then gone and got injured. They've had a pre-season friendly programme, which was followed by the Carabao Cup win, a 3-0 cup win over Port Vale. And now we're going into the league season, probably still needing to do quite a bit of work in the transfer market. But we have got a little idea of what Cesar Peixoto wants from his players. Robbie, what have you made of the summer that Wolves have just had?
A little bit frustrating so far with regards to the amount of players that they brought in. I think everybody thinks, at the end of the season, and ourselves included, maybe a little bit, that all of a sudden you can get rid of 7, 8 players and all of a sudden you can bring in 7 or 8, which I think is unrealistic to ask in a short space of time. But it has been a little bit frustrating. I think they brought in good additions with Trippier, fantastic experience, looks as fit as a fiddle still. I think he'd be a great addition. Raul Jimenez, well, speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? It's really got the fans back on board and they're buzzing with that signing. The new lad, unfortunately, has got injured and that's disappointing for him. But I still think that they need to get a few out the door, Johnny, before they actually get a few more in, and just to freshen it up and take things to another level and look as if the squad is fresh going into the new season. And I think that's over the next couple of weeks. That's what the fans will be looking for. A few more additions, a few people going out the door as well.
Yeah, there were definitely encouraging signs against Port Vale, but I think it's fairly obvious that team alone can't carry Wolves through a 46-game championship season. A season championship stalwart you two are. I mean, Mucci, what do you think of the current Wolves squad and whether or not it's fit for purpose for the championship?
Quite obvious that there's a bit of work to do. The difficulty is there's been the World Cup, so all the transfers across the country are delayed to a degree. They've got 2 cracking signings in Trippier and Jimenez, which without doubt. Obviously, there's a lot of players within the club that are on big contracts and the club need to move some of them on. I would reserve judgment really on the commitment of the club regarding who they actually get in and who they actually release. I mean, there's been rumours that the new manager's after a goalkeeper, but we have 3 keepers in already. So that just doesn't make economic sense to me. But I'm very positive about the season, to be quite honest, because Trippier and Jimenez alone, the experience they'll give us is fantastic. You know, I think Johnson would do well in nets for us this season in the Championship. And also, you've got to take the positivity of 24,000 season tickets sold when we've been relegated. You know, says everything about the club and the support. We only need to start to get a little run of games, and the excitement will really kick in, because you know, it's obviously very demoralising when you lose week in, week out. But fortunately, this season, I think we'll win far more games than we won last season.
Yeah, it does have that sense of a fresh start, and that's it. I mean,
That's a bold, Mutsy. You're starting with bold statements already, mate. Come on.
Hey, no flies, Robbie, no flies, lad. You know the score.
if we don't win more than 3 games in the Championship, then there's going to be serious problems.
I'm hoping to win that in the first month, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great point you make about the supporter base, because they had every right just to walk away and turn their backs after what happened last season, but they didn't. And you know, to give credit to the club as well, the club did reduce prices, and they have listened to some degree in terms of what the fans needed, and they've reduced prices, and the fans have turned up in their droves now. But there is obviously still a lot of work to do. That's a good point you make about the goalies. I think Sam Johnson would be fine as a Championship keeper, but it's quite clear that they're trying to offload Johnston, who's on big money. They're trying to offload Jose Sarr, and the only one they can play at the moment is Daniel Bentley, who's not. I don't think he's good enough to be first choice. I think he's a bit suspect at the back post with crosses, and his distribution needs work. So arguably they want all 3 out and get a fresh keeper in, but it's a strange one. But Robbie, to go back to what Much is saying, and what you said as well, I think they've got to offload quickly if they're going to get the sort of players they want in. They can't just add overseas players in particular to a squad that's got far too many overseas players for this league.
Absolutely, Johnny, and I think you've just hit the nail on the head, really, with regards to the wages that the boys are on. You know, the Sar's on a big contract, Johnson's on a big contract. So where are these lads going? You know what I mean? So that's the issue, and it's a major issue for Wolves. And with regards, if they really want to bring someone in, then they're going to have to get rid of a couple of keepers on big money. And I honestly don't know where they're going to. You know what I mean? But if the season was to start with Sa in goals, you know, I wouldn't have an issue with that, as long as he's totally dedicated to being there. Wants to be there. Obviously, he might want to move on a later date, but throws himself into what the club are trying to do. I don't have an issue with that at all, because I think he's a decent keeper and he's a good keeper for that level. Keeping the 3 is just unrealistic, really. You know, that is unrealistic. So you're going to have to offload one at least. But there's still more work to do throughout the squad. You know, that there's talk of that he wants a centre half, that maybe another centre midfielder, and obviously a bit more cover up front. So there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of offloading to be done initially, first of all, and what you really want to see, and Much he's touched on it, the fans are absolutely amazing. You know what I mean? There's 24,000, 25,000 tickets. So every game that Wolves are playing at home, the Wolves section will be sold out. So the club have to get behind that support, really. They have to show that they are desperate to get out of this division. Now, they did it initially with the first 2 or 3 signings, which was fine, but they really have to back it up from now to the end of August, and hopefully they will.
The club, and in particular, the 3, well, there's only 2 of them left now, but there was a fans forum towards the end of last season with Rob Edwards, technical director Matt Jackson, and the new chairman Nathan Shee. And at that forum, Nathan Shee said there would be a lot of players coming in, and yeah, I think that's a direct quote. I think he used the term a lot. And while it was an amazing start to the transfer window with Jimenez and Trippier, and while you have to say there's several players currently in the squad who might not have been good enough for the Premier League, but actually, if they keep them and they get a game in the Championship, they're clearly good enough for the Championship. So we mustn't write everybody off. But I think fans are going to hold Nathan Shee to account a little bit over that fans forum comment, and the fact that they needed to get their business done early and get a lot of players in. It hasn't quite materialised. I mean, Muchie, what do you think in terms of the priority? Centre half would be what I'd say, because of there seems to be flair further forward, and enough excitement further forward. I mean, is there any area in particular that you'd say is somewhere that Wolves really need cover, or even starting players?
What I would say, Johnny, in truth, when we're talking about Nathan Shee and this meeting they had and all that, you've got to give him a bit of space to see what he actually produces, because it's the legacy of the club that's let us down. Because the likes of Johnson and all these guys who are on big money, right? It should have been in the contract that if he went down in the from the Premier League to the Championship, you take pay cuts and etc. etc. That suggests to me that it hasn't happened because they're finding it difficult to move players out. Where we need strengthening, you got Jimenez up front with Mane, the wide fella Gomez and that. So we're not too bad in that area. For me, I'd get the back four solid. You need two solid centre halves in the left back. As long as that's sorted out, what the manager feels is right for the team, I think the rest will take care of itself. And I think Nathan Shee's probably right in the respect that there will be a lot of additions, right? It just won't be as quickly as we want it to be because it is business. And in that respect, I know the fans don't like that word, but that's the way they all run the clubs nowadays. It's a different world, isn't it? So you look at it and say, well, as long as they balance it out enough and they're showing the commitment that's expected, I think the front line's not so bad. You've got to strengthen. I wouldn't be surprised if they got a new keeper in, and I'm not shocked that they might want a fresh keeper in. The gaffer thinks that's the way forward, and I'm not surprised about that. But get your back four solid, and the rest of it with the keeper, and the rest of it will take care of itself with as you said, with the quality of some of the lads who may have been on the peripherals of not being top Premier League players. However, in the Championship, they can flourish as long as they're competitive, because obviously it's a very competitive league.
That comment you make about it being competitive is something that they've really got to get to grips with very, very quickly. It's a real slog in the Championship. But there are players like Rodrigo Gomez and Fer Lopez who this could be an amazing opportunity for them. That they were very much peripheral players, but they've clearly shown in pre-season, and they showed against Port Vale, that they've got a lot about them, and the Championship could be just right for them if they had the support and if the squad was big enough. And that point you make about getting your back four right, I think we're fine at the flanks with Hugo Bueno and Trippier, but it's the two centre halves, Totti and Yerson, that I'd be worried about. Deno, would that be a fair comment?
I think on the ball, if you're trying to play out from the back, I think Totti is, he makes you a little bit nervous whenever he gets on the ball, and that doesn't bode well throughout the team. Then, if one of your centre halves is getting a lot of touches and he's a little bit nervous on the ball, but then again, Johnny, is Krejci staying? You know what I mean? If Krejci's staying, then I think it doesn't look as if he is. Then that's a shake of the. But if he was staying, if he ended up staying, listen, I think it'll go as well before the end, because I think he's a good enough player to move on and play at a higher level. I think that he's one of the lads that I think will move on. But I'm just saying, if he did stay, he passes the ball out well from the back, so he would give you the cover that you want. With regards to the other two centre halves, but if he goes, then you're looking at another centre half and someone who's, yes, thought he can defend. Yeah, he's decent in both boxes. Mosquera's a bit the same, although he's a bit wayward at times. You know what I mean? He's a bit of a mad one. But you need someone, if you're going to pass out from the back, you need two centre halves who are comfortable on the ball, and I just don't think they have that at the moment.
I think we've all agreed, haven't we, that Krejci had an excellent season last season, even though the season was what it was. But I'm not too sure if Krejci's the type of lad we want at centre half in the Championship. What I would suggest, he's a very good player and he'd fit in lovely in a good footballing side. Maybe in the Premier League, yeah, fine. We need centre halves who are responsible for defending as opposed to setting the game up, right? Let the midfield and the strikers and the wide men do that, because the physicality of the Championship is, and the inconsistency of the sides, where they get beat one week and next week they have a superb game, So if we're solid at the back, right, for me, with real pedigree centre halves type thing, I think that'll stand us in real good stead, because whichever way you look at it, there's a lot of talent in the club still. Some will go, and I think Krejci's a real talent. Not sure if he's really what we want at Wolves in the Championship, if I'm being honest. In a top side, I think he'd look at a marvellous player, but he's a footballing defender, isn't he? Not a defender in my head. That's what I would suggest.
It's interesting that he said love him to stay. I really, really would, because you've also got the option of him in midfield. But I do get where you're coming from. I mean, the Championship is a slog. And funny enough, during your time, lads, and Wolves couldn't make that final step in the 90s, it was probably the centre-half areas that they struggled in. And ultimately, when they did eventually get promoted in 2002, 2003, they got Joleon Lescott and Paul Butler in, and it was probably the best centre-half partnership they'd had, in 10 or 15 years. So I sort of see where you're coming from in that sense. I mean, from a playing perspective, is that where those comments are coming from, Mochi?
Oh, without doubt. What you say is what you see a lot of nowadays is a lot of good football right down the divisions. You know what I mean? The pitches are very good. Technically, the lads are better. The pitch are better, so obviously they move the board and all that. But first and foremost, it doesn't matter what level you're playing at. You've got to have defenders that can defend, right, and want to defend, and most importantly, enjoy defending. If you get a defender who's at the back who just wants to be a footballer, it's all right if you're in a good side where you get sustained possession. But I can't really say the Championship is like that. It's very athletic. It's very physical. There's no time on the ball whatsoever. Ironically, Matt Jarvis was talking on the radio today and he was saying he had more time when he played in the Premier League than he did in the Championship, and he felt more comfortable. He said it was just harder to go past the Premier League defenders, So that tells you everything really for me, is that if you're a defender, right, you've got to enjoy defending. If we look back in our day, Floyd, Ali, Rob, Vino, Tomo, all great defenders and all wanted to defend. Not about being flowery footballers, right? Because there's plenty of that in the squad, in lots of squads right across the board, if truth be known. For me, if you get that solid and you want to defend like a defender and you enjoy defending, I think that'll put us in real good stead for the season.
Lovely hearing those names. Those names again as well, Floyd Street and Ali Rob. I mean, if they'd have been,
weren't they?
Yeah, but if they'd have been a bit younger and Ali Rob had finished and Floyd went, didn't he? But if it was that sort of player that they never really had in the what was then called the second division back in your day for a bit, and then at that Championship level, I think after those two went, Wolves never really had the sort of the consistency at the centre back. I don't know.
Well,
am I misremembering that,
Johnny? Ironically, Johnny, right? Sorry, just to say, if you speak to people outside the Midlands about Ali Robertson, not a lot of people sort of recognise his name. He had 18 years in the First Division as one of the best centre halves you'll ever come across. Tough as boots, right? All he wanted to do was defend. If Ali started getting the ball and passing it out and all that, we'd look at him and say he's had a bang on the head or what, this fella. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you got to strip it back, haven't you?
Yeah, you're definitely right, Machi, because at the end of the day, it's any team that's successful, you'll find that they've probably got the best defensive record in the league as well. You look at even the Man City over the years, the Man United's over the years, Arsenal last season as well. They've probably got the best defensive records as well. So that's where your success is built on.
And a good keeper, yeah, bang on. A good
Absolutely.
keeper is worth your weight in gold. I mean, you remember the top sides like United and whoever, when they were in the pomp with, Schmeichel, you remember him making loads of great saves because he was a great keeper. Because it tells you that even the best defenders get undone a bit, right? But you need a good keeper so that when it does happen, they cover the cracks. I think Johnson will do really well for us. I'm not saying Sar's not a brilliant keeper, but, he's a foreign lad. He'll probably we've gone down and he's got his eye somewhere else type situation. So you can understand that. I agree with you, Johnny, that Bentley probably just not quite ready and not tough enough probably when they're swinging them balls in with them meatheads coming in the Championship. So Johnson would probably suit if anybody, unless the gaffer decides to bring somebody else in who he knows why he's bringing him in. I'm really looking forward to the season, though, I've got to say.
Let's hope it's going to be more than 3 wins in the league all season, and we've got loads of good things to talk about. We're going to wrap this podcast up there. This was just a quick season Championship preview pod.
Johnny?
Yes,
Johnny, as Oasis said, though, definitely maybe.
We need to introduce more music into this podcast for the 2026-27 season.
Oh, he'd be bringing his guitar for the next one.
Yeah.
Let's do your song.
Yeah, we'll save that for the Lichgate Muchie. We'll reconvene on maybe Monday or Tuesday night next week after the Leicester game and do a fuller pod and have the first big podcast of the season. But it's great just to catch up again, lads, and kick off season 2 of Muchie and Deno. So thanks as always for your time.
Good to get together.
Thanks for that, Johnny. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Robbie, lad.